All right, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Let's jam.
Hey,
Welcome to the Game Audio Hour, episode 187, a fortnightly podcast a fortnightly podcast, not a prodcast. We don't want to prod you everywhere. No, it is a fortnightly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to the latest techniques, project experience to audio secrets. Here is where you'll find in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. And it's a duo today. I'm Vince, and you're Chase. And how are you doing, Chase?
doing pretty well. Hanging in there. It was nice, lovely showers up here in Moore Park and in the morning, and now it's all sunny. So you gotta love California.
Oh gosh, yeah. California. It's great. I just instinctively let my pets out to go and do their business on the lawn earlier this morning. I didn't even register to me that it was raining. What the hell? So now I had wet pets to deal with, which was great. Jumping on the couch, jumping on the bed. No, why are my pets wet? No, this is not what I wanted. Not what I wanted at all. So
Wet pets. I love it.
yeah, I'm not a big fan, but that's okay. Maybe I should have actually broken out the microphone and seen what sort of weird sounds I could get out of them in all of their wetness. They're actually not particularly gregarious vocal pets, but they do make a lot of funny noises in terms of like their movements, especially when they're wet, because they're gonna just like shake all over the place and like scratch themselves onto different things, rub their bodies onto all sorts of different places in the house.
Yeah.
I should have been ready for
You just
it.
need like a nice pet lav to just record that anywhere they do that, and then just dump that in with of course the lav has a good windscreen, so you could just have that audio ready to go throughout their day at the end of the day, and then just edit it out.
Yeah. I should have had it. I should have had it ready. I was looking at some other sound designers online, and seeing that, oh yeah, we had thunderstorms. I just broke out the recording rig and just had it run for 9 hours in the middle of the night. Some people are just more prepared than I am. I got to have those good habits. Good habits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'm kind of thinking about that. Habits right now. Would you say that you have any particular habits, like good habits that you want to keep on pushing the momentum on, or bad habits that you think, oh, I need to break that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Good habits. Breaks. I'm good. That's a good habit I have. I'm good about taking some breaks, and definitely separating myself from the computer and possibly going on walks, or like I said, cleaning, washing dishes, things of that nature, and long breaks too, like, because if we're writing or mixing and such, like, I usually think a 2 to 3 hour break is actually really good. It's just enough for make me to feel like, okay, well, you got to come back to it. I can't be lazy for the rest of the day just yet. Maybe work a couple extra hours, but not too much over the top. Bad habits. Well, bad habit would be not drinking the amount of water, I guess, that I should be having. And so I've been working on that. And yeah, just to kind of keep the blood flowing and the brain hydrated as best as it possibly can. What else? Bad habits. I find myself in the morning, I guess, is a bad habit. Whereas I say I'm going to start at 9, and then I let about three other things distract me. Maybe it's like applying for something else, or getting lost in an email, video, or something of some sorts. And then I look up and it's 10 o'clock, and that's the first time for break. So that's a bad habit. I probably could just adjust a little bit, but nothing too bad.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's kind of connected to me there. When it comes to good habits, bad habits thing, definitely the way that I use time is one of those things on both sides. Like, I feel I'm actually very good at doing that early start. I can hit hard early on in the day and just move. But actually, sometimes I'll just trail off. My momentum just goes away, and then it's hard to like do that. And I get into this bad habit of, oh, I'll deal with that later. I did all this good work early in the day, and I don't have to care very much about the rigor and the regimen later on in the day. Hey, I had a really good 2 hours in the morning. That really doesn't excuse me later in the day. It really doesn't. And yet somehow I convince myself of that. Yeah.
That was an untended pun you just did. It was that's why I laughed, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it then, and it's like bam. But
yeah, that's a good point. I remember having that issue a long time ago, and especially like now, like mentally my mindset has been kind of wavering. I think it's just because I've got things that I want to achieve, but then things just moving all over the place. And so I feel that whole like momentum thing where it's like, all right, well, I'm going to just excuse myself. I did some work today, so I shouldn't feel that hard on myself, but I will pay for it later on. And time again, the universe shows me like, hey, you should have learned from the lesson the last time. Be early, be prepared, get your stuff done. And then you have all this other time to be distracted if you want to.
Yeah. Whew. But, oh well, good habits, bad habits, we all have them. Good to recognize them and actually act on them. Know what it is that you've got. That's great. Keep the momentum moving forward. And also recognize the bad stuff and not dwell on it too much, but know, hey, that's a place where you can improve.
And that's a big step, recognizing. A lot of people I know I've talked to, they recognize it, but they don't take the action. Or they're in denial, so they don't recognize it and they don't take the action.
Yeah.
So that's like the further behind. But recognizing and taking the action are the two biggest steps, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Kind of recognizing what is out there. I recently came across some really cool videos over the last few weeks. And I know that there's been all this stuff on the internet about things like Unreal Engine 5. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that later. But I think one of the more interesting things comes from our audio friend, our music friend, Andrew Aversa over at Impact Soundworks. Have you checked out the stuff that he's up to?
I have. I think I was the first person to comment on the video.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, honestly. Like I had mentioned in the comment, I feel like the knowledge bombs that were dropped in these videos were just generously given in so much short time, but just very succinct and proper and just great information to have. Just even like what is it, 3 videos now?
Yeah.
The first 2 videos are just like, oh, so good.
Yep. So if you don't know what we're talking about, Andrew Aversa is one of the founders of Impact Soundworks. And if you're a music or audio guy, you probably know about that company because they've done all sorts of really good stuff. A lot of really cool plugins, contact libraries, sample libraries for things like electric guitars and ethnic winds like shakuhachi and duduk, and choirs and really good sample libraries. And and not just your typical stuff, some weird stuff like Vocalisa, which is like the Bulgarian women's choir, which is like really cool. It just has a really cool, neat sound to it. So really good sample library developer. But also, just at the end of April, he started doing a YouTube series called Impact Soundworks Academy. And these are kind of music 101 type videos that are just saying, hey, if you're interested in making music a career, here's some things that you should keep in mind. And he's been doing, like you said, 3 videos so far. And I'm really looking at the series and thinking, there's good stuff in here. Yeah. It's actually kind of funny for me because as much as I am a veteran of the video game industry, I'm very much a veteran that's worked within the confines of a game development studio. So I know how things work as a game development studio. When I think about the things that we want to do with the game company's music, I understand, here's how we make these moves. Okay, here's how we deal with, registering our music. And, what are the accounts that we need to set up on, like, Harry Fox and ASCAP and all that stuff. And, so there's stuff that I know from that perspective. But as an individual music composer, there's actually stuff that I kind of know, but it's not ingrained in me. It's the stuff that I remember reading that in a book a while ago, but I've never had to use it because I've always been a company man. I remember hearing about that in a webinar or a class, but I've always been a company man. But seeing this video series from Andrew has been really great, and I'm looking forward to the next all the next entries in the series.
Yeah, likewise. In fact, while watching the first video, it had reminded me that I needed to register my works with the company SoundExchange, which is it's not necessarily a PRO, it's just more of a music rights organization of some sort that will collect royalties for you through paid stream avenues, such as like SoundCloud Pro or Pandora, subscriptions, etc. And so I remember starting the process 4 years ago, but because I wasn't on Pandora back then, I didn't go through with it. And now that I have some of my discography as an independent video game composer, now I need to register all that work and go back so that hopefully I'm not missing out on any type of money and so on and so forth. So yeah, shout out to Impact Soundworks Academy. Shout out to Andrew Versa. Thank you for making those videos and continuing, and definitely looking forward to more. And especially it's just a nice refresher, like you were saying, like you as a veteran, you understand where the confines are within the company, but then so you may know or remember some of these things, but then when you see things like this, they're like, oh yeah, that's a nice refresher. Things may change in careers, so on and so forth. So it's good to kind of just have that reminder.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned the SoundExchange thing. I really liked that comment because SoundExchange is really darn useful, and they're surprisingly more proactive as a company than you might think. I had actually been in the same boat as you. I registered for SoundExchange a couple years back, and I started the process, but I didn't actually get around to dealing with individual works. I just couldn't be bothered. There was a spreadsheet that they provided. I'm like, oh God, do I know all this stuff? Do I know the ISRC codes for all these works? It's like, I mean, I have stuff out there that, that has my name, like, but it's stuff like, how the hell do I get the codes for Flower? I mean, how do I do that? That's just so long ago. My contacts at Sony are not the same contacts as I had before. And instead of actually doing it, I just let it slide. And then someone from SoundExchange actually emailed me and said, hey, we noticed that your stuff is not complete there when it comes to your registration. And I thought, oh, okay, whatever. And then there was a second email that came like a month later. I was like, okay, I figure I'll just email and say, yeah, I could actually use some help on registering these works. I'm not sure exactly how to fill this up. And there was actually someone on the other end that emailed me back and said, oh, really? Well, we can figure that out. As long as your personal information is okay, I'm pretty sure that we can do some of this registration for you. And then the next time I logged into my SoundExchange account, I actually saw that my repertoire was populated. It was like, whoa, what the hell? So SoundExchange, just props to them for actually being on our side. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I thought you were going to take it a different way, where you're talking about being on our side and being in our corner, because like you're probably getting newsletters, and they're really big advocates in terms of pushing for for laws within the music industry for artists to be paid and being paid properly, and fighting at those higher level court systems for artists to be compensated for their work through these streams, through royalties, and always being an evangelist of some sort for the voice of us who cannot always have that audience with those type of political means. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to SoundExchange, honestly, because I do get those emails, and it does feel good to see that they're breaking through slowly but surely, but they are fighting and breaking through and fighting for us to have better paid streams, better paid royalties, and for things to be fair for all artists.
Yeah, it's really cool. SoundExchange is cool. All the stuff that's mentioned, just going back to the Impact Soundworks Academy stuff, there's a lot of really great information on there. He gives a nice overview on all these things. A little bit of SoundExchange, a little bit about aggregators, a little bit about stuff like Bandcamp and Gumroad and all these options for musicians, which are very much Music 101. I mean, I think it's explicitly Music 100, Music 101, Music 102, etc. And I'm really looking forward to just following this series and seeing where else it goes, because he does promise at the very beginning of the series saying, oh yeah, it's not just going to be beginner stuff. We're going to go into the future and also address things that might be on the minds of veterans and experts.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're thinking about when it's like, oh man, I hope he goes down this particular path? I wonder if he'll actually broach this territory.
That's a good question. I think I'm just along for the ride right now. I'm honestly, probably because you put me on the spot, but so I can't like look up a video and see like, oh yeah, this one. But if I was to think a little bit deeper, just for a hot second, I think I'm a little curious in terms of if he's going to touch into actually what he does as a developer for Impact Soundworks and talking about making contact instruments and the ways that to set that up and things of that nature. That's just off the top of my head. And to see if he even like approaches the idea and shares that information.
Yeah, I actually think that would be really interesting. So not just how of making that, but also from a business aspect. Because that seems to be a really interesting territory for me right now. Making a business out of making instruments. What exactly is that? There's a lot of different ways to do it. There's a lot of different people doing it, because we see it come from, individuals who are just doing stuff on their own with their own particular acts, or maybe they're working in a studio and they're like, hey, you mind if this choir that's over here, this choir from this one gig, I remember being really cool. Maybe I should talk to them and see if I could make some sort of interesting choral effects library. And I kind of wonder about that myself, because, I have a little bit of acumen when it comes to that type of audio programming. I'm actually fairly comfortable within Contact when it comes to doing that stuff. But I've never actually thought, oh man, what if I wanted to do this as a contact instrument? And not just the creative and technical aspect of it, but also the business side of it, and providing some insight on that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There is another YouTuber that I remember watching some of his works, and he did touch on that a little bit and go through a walkthrough video. And he also had been kind of talking about some of the income valleys that happen and things to kind of bridge that and things of the nature. So between the two of them, here it is, Will Van de Krummert. Hopefully I'm saying his name right, but yeah, he's got some interesting videos that he just fairly recently started doing. Something like making money composing, creative music income, composing career ladders, where he talks about internships and composer assistant positions. And then the other one was make a contact instrument simple version, royalties. So those two are all like almost on the same wavelength going on right now. And between the two, they have different information that they give based off their own experience. But I find it both very, very interesting.
Yeah. Really cool stuff. So you should absolutely check out Impact Soundworks Academy. It's really good. There's only 3 episodes out right now, but he's been doing it pretty regularly over the last month, and I'm really looking forward to that next episode. Absolutely check that out, Impact Soundworks Academy. Now, also on the video front, did you see all the crazy premieres that were happening last week? Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
Oh yes, I am. You have no idea. I'm so excited. I've joined Unreal Discords up the wazoo, and I've just been active.
Yeah, it's cool. That thing.
Triangles for days.
Triangles. I'm actually a little bit disappointed. I made a dumb joke on Twitter where I said, "Oh man, for some reason I've got James Blunt and Sesame Street on the mind," and I linked to this YouTube video of. James Blunt's on Sesame Street, and instead of going, you're beautiful, he goes, my triangle, my triangle. You know, I was like, three lovely
Oh,
ankles, three lovely sides, something, something. It's hilarious. It's great. So, oh man, you got to check out James Blunt's Triangle song. It's great.
that sounds good.
But even beyond that, that Unreal demo just looked gorgeous. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, stunning.
Although it is worth noting that for all those triangles, it was all about the background and the environment. You know, it's all that crazy stuff that was happening just there.
Yeah.
And actually, at the very beginning of that demo video, they make a big show of, okay, if we show all the triangles and all this stuff, oh man, you have triangles that are so small that they're really just represented by a single pixel. When they're in that mode, you actually don't see the avatar represented on the screen at all. The avatar is still an avatar, just its character animation. That is a different space from what they are doing with what they were focusing on with all the cool stuff and just the power of the rendering of that gorgeous cinematic quality 8K texture, etc., environment that was in the demo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
It was quite interesting to see how like the AI was actually interacting with the environment too. So when they were speaking about like the crows and how things would happen possibly in a real setting of nature, that these things would occur and it's not all scripted but just happening just organically. And I thought that was really great.
yeah, there was some cool things with the birds. Yep. What was it? The comment, I think, was, oh, the birds themselves are particles, and each individual particle / bird is actually aware of every other one that's immediately around them. So that's how you have that realistic environment, like that realistic sort of response to what's going on with the character and the environment and all that. That's cool. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Now, to put it back into the audio world, he just makes a really short comment. I mean, he spends maybe 30 seconds on it, just talking about IR, so impulse responses of environments for this world. And we've seen a couple of other separate demos that are just talking only about IRs for reverbs and environments and rooms in Unreal Engine 5. And those don't have the same graphical wow factor, but they're really great. Yeah. I'm really excited about that combination of both, wow, a beautiful, realistic environment, as well as a beautiful sound that perfectly reflects that environment that you're in. I'm really excited about that.
Same. And in addition to that, knowing that is the demo specifically, as far as I know, a PS5. So PS5, which we already talked about, audio being in the conversation.
Focus. Yeah, we like that.
That's good. So we got hardware, then we got software. This is a match made in heaven. So this is dreamland for us. This is dreamland. They've given the time to speak about the audio and the upgrades and the passion and the future of how the game audio is going to work, not only just with hardware, but with software. And when you marry those together, I mean, this is excellent. This is fantastic. We should be jumping out of our seats. And that's what I'm excited for, because that's something I just kind of locked onto, is like, whoa, wait, they just didn't say about this, even if it was a short period of time, but they thought about it. And it's a conversation, and that's always good.
Yeah. Keeping on going on this, over on the Twitch chat, Damien is actually making a comment here. Hey, Damien. You're cool.
Hey.
But also you're saying it's been difficult in the past to get information about the positioning of particles rendered on the GPU. I'll be interested to see if they have a way to do that in order to attach sound to particles. And that is so valid too. I mean, you could have, okay, your crows are particles, but how exactly do you put sounds on particles? Traditionally you can't, because it's just like, oh, this is a thing that runs, you just let it do its thing, and if you're going to be putting sounds to it, it's going to be in a very rough manner. You know it's going to be something happening in this area. Oh, it's a particle emitter. Okay, you put a sound on the emitter, not on the particles. You know, stuff like that. So that's very valid. That is true, especially if you want to do something like, oh, my bird is a particle. How do I attach a sound to this bird? You traditionally can't. So that will be really interesting to see if they figure out ways to do that. Or maybe that information, just because of the new power of modern GPUs, that we will actually be able to get that, to be able to call that information into whatever sound function we got.
True. In addition to that, I'm also wondering, since Damien brought it up, if this is a conversation that we can hop into early as pioneers, to also push the conversation forward externally rather than it happening internally. As our brains are thinking about this, let's just try to be, we're like focus testers. Mm-hmm. Whereas we can kind of just say, hey, we were thinking about this, we saw your presentation, but are we thinking about this too? Or this would be helpful. That way we can kind of navigate the waters a little bit, even though it's new territory, but we are not on the out. And I'm always going to use the example for software developers, whereas I've seen a big issue where Apple does this big update, right? They call it Mount Fuji or something, just giving another mountain name because it's what I kind of remember right now, right? So that's the new update, right? And all these other audio developers are just like, well, whoa, we don't have that working with we have that working with Sierra, but not this new mountain that you put over here. So what happened to the conversation, right? Like Apple just didn't include anyone. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if there's like some kind of forum channel or a tweet or anything that we can kind of get in on that will open this dialogue more. And that way we can maybe subjugate some of these other possible problems in the future and have early solutions with it. It's just a thought I was thinking about.
Yeah, that conversation is really important. I do wonder if maybe it's not going to be so much a conversation that's open to audio developers as it is perhaps audio developers forcing open the conversation. And this is kind of going back, a month or so ago, and I was talking a little bit about this road that was forged in the mid-late 2000s of processing audio on the GPU. There's all sorts of reasons why that's a cool idea, but there's also a lot of reasons why people just don't do it. But maybe this is actually a new time and a very appropriate time to actually do it. Hey, we've got this GPU stuff. Let's have audio that actually runs on the GPU. Maybe in certain cases, like very simple things. Hey, you want to play a sound at a position. That position is only information that is privy to the GPU. So let's just run it there. Your particles are going to not just be the graphic shader, but also going to be a compute shader that's dealing with audio that's going to be rendered and then passed into the main audio pipeline. Maybe that will be the way that it happens. That could be cool.
Yeah, that could be very cool.
Yeah. So Unreal Engine, super exciting. Just super exciting. It looks cool. The fact that they show it running on a PS5 that's cool. You don't traditionally see that with these engine announcements. It's always going to be on like a high-end PC because that has the cutting edge. But in this case, with the stuff that they're showing, they're really showing, hey, the PS5 can do this. Its disk architecture is so different and above what is going on right now with PCs. The way that they are dealing with data and reading that data from that NVMe plus flash drive that is on the PlayStation 5, that is super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's still pushing forward regardless of the global situation, and it's definitely given some positivity and some enlightenment, I guess, to understanding our disciplines and how we will move forward and not feeling like we're in a stagnant place at all. And that's exciting, at least, like you said, for both of us and other people too.
Yeah, it is exciting. I know that people are talking about, PlayStation is going to do, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X is. Hold on, do I got that right? We got the current console is the Xbox One X. That's like their high end one right now, which is like on the level of PS4 Pro. And then there's the Xbox
Right.
Series X, which is going to be the
Yeah.
new Xbox. So I don't know. Anyways, once we get those, that might happen a little bit later than expected because, the current environment, we already have things like games getting delayed. So it kind of makes sense that maybe hardware is also getting delayed. But even
Sure.
with those delays, yeah, like you said, things are still moving forward. We're pushing so hard on stuff.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like the release of that demo is really cool. I mean, that happened right around the time that this whole pandemic thing got started. Not got started, but
Yeah.
like when countries and states and whatnot were starting to lock down stuff. And yet the Epic team
Yeah.
is continuing to push forward on their underlying technology. They're continuing to push forward on making this presentation and showing people what is possible on the new hardware. That's also exciting, and it gives me really great reasons to just feel good about, we're moving forward. We're going to keep on moving forward and try different things.
Yeah. It's also want to insert something that I realized I had listened to before I had watched that presentation for the Unreal 5. And there's an interview on this podcast called The Game Maker's Notebook.
Oh yeah,
Have you heard of this?
I've checked
Yeah.
out the Game Maker's Notebook. It's a great series.
Yeah. So did you hear the one with Ted Price and Tim Sweeney?
No,
in that
I
conversation?
didn't. Oh my god.
That's the one to listen to. And then when you watch the Unreal 5 thing, it's like, oh my gosh, like they were actually talking about a little bit of this stuff in that interview, which is a fantastic and concise, very well put together interview with Ted Price, like I said, and Tim Sweeney. So definitely check that out. It was a great listen.
Mm-hmm. All right, I should definitely check that out. There's been some great episodes on there. I know that thing's been going for years.
Yeah.
But I should check that out again. Thank you. I don't think I've checked out a new episode of that since, I don't know, end of last year. So I'm definitely behind on my podcast stuff. I would usually listen to podcast stuff in the car, and I'm not driving nearly as much. So that's the whole thing there. I know that's a dumb excuse, but
No. See, I listen to it when I fold clothes and when I do dishes.
yeah.
My dishwasher doesn't work, so
Yeah.
it kind of works out.
Cool. Ooh, we got another comment on Twitch. Mr. Mad Brain says, CPUs are better at audio than graphics, so it makes sense that it took time to show up on the GPU, though the N64 often mixed audio on the Vertex processing unit. Cool. And that's,
yes.
yeah. I mean, I didn't really know that about the N64. A little bit before my time. At least as a developer. Obviously, I played a lot of N64 when I was a kid. But yeah, since the N64 was a little bit weird architecture-wise, I have heard things about audio being done a little bit differently. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And
I remember that, actually.
Yeah. The whole thing about audio on the GPU, I mean, developers have tried different things when it came to that. And I've researched a little bit. I've looked at some papers. There are certainly some aspects of audio that work really well on the GPU. If you look around at the things that are available, whether it be commercially or freely, it would be things like reverb and spatiality. It's just really good at that type of stuff. You want impulse response reverbs? Those were the first things that were available that ran on OpenCL back in the late 2000s. And these were things from individual developers as well as commercial reverbs. In the early 2000s, there were some companies that were actually commercially making reverbs that ran both as VST plugins on your CPU as well as on GPUs. So, those things are possible. There are latency issues. The fact that the GPU is so disconnected from everything else that you're doing, and you're going to have a latency issue there. Much more with audio, where you miss a couple samples. That's a huge thing versus missing a millisecond worth on when it comes to rendering out to your graphics buffer, which is already going to be like double or triple buffered anyway. So
Right.
There are definitely issues. It's not some panacea where it's like, oh yeah, this is the gold. This is going to be the fountain of youth or whatnot. But I do think that there's excitement here. There's like possibility there. I'm really looking forward to that possibility. And just this, for as cool as Unreal Engine 5 was at just showing off how cool Unreal Engine 5 was, it also cracks open the door on this amazing possibility that I'm excited about and I want to talk more about.
Right. Yeah, like the conversation's here. We just got to push it and keep it going, and let's just keep the ideas flowing too. And like you said, probably keep forcing the conversation open as much as we can.
Yep. Ooh. So there was also another video that came out from a company called Sonantic. And have you checked this thing out?
I looked at it a little bit.
Sonantic is...
But I'm familiar.
Yeah, they're an interesting company. I actually heard a little bit about them at the end of last year. And if you go to their company website, sonantic.io, sonantic.io, their webpage is just like this big old orange gradient splash that says hyper-realistic artificial voices. Create a captivating performance using emotionally expressive text-to-speech. It's kind of amazing. About 1 or 2 days after the Unreal Engine 5 video dropped, they dropped their thing. Where it's like an AI that can cry. The first AI that can cry. Not the whole adage of, hey, can a computer make you cry? Can a game make you cry? But instead, this is an AI that can cry. And it doesn't really show that much. But what it does show is, hey, here's an amazing voice. It's very evocative. It sounds like an actress emoting. And some hints about the interface that's actually used to drive that artificial voice. And it's just like plain old movie. It's like a plain old screenplay script. Typing in text, you type in ellipsis, you type in an ellipses, you say, okay, a little bit of break, and suddenly, oh, you have this voice that emotes this woman that has this beautiful yet very hurtful, very contemplative, very thoughtful, very considered, very emotionally evocative sound. It's crazy and amazing and also a little bit scary.
This takes me back.
Yeah.
To a time, wow, I want to say 2009, 2010. There was this website, and it was built off of you just having a conversation with this computer-generated AI, and you just type in questions, and it would give you answers. This is way before Siri. This is, somewhere around that time. I remember just my friend and I, we were just trying to just kind of break the system almost by just asking any type of question we probably could think of. And it did fairly actually well. And some things it wouldn't respond to, but some things it would. And I can't remember the details of the conversation, but we would ask it some outlandish things, and we would ask it some general things, and it would respond fairly well. It was kind of fun. It was enough fun to at least tinker with it for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so that's a long time, considering if it's like in 2010. And I probably should ask him about that if he remembers that website.
Oh, yeah.
But it's probably been way too long. But yeah, that takes me back.
AI chat is kind of amazing. I mean, there's been so much research onto that since like 80s and 90s, and yeah, I mean, there's some really cool stuff there where you think, wow, that is an interesting thought. I can't believe this person using, not person, but this AI chatbot just using relatively basic algorithms. Maybe it's like based on Rogerian psychoanalysis or whatnot. It's like, okay, let's get that line there to you that will like actually hit you. But then the whole idea of the voice of that line has always been something that's okay. The quality of that voice, and we're hearing good stuff now. I mean, ever since Apple with Siri started being like, oh yeah, Siri is a person that you can sort of talk to and it'll give you information. And that's cool. Some people in the chat are actually talking about things like Voco. I remember Voco. It was Adobe during one of their Adobe Max conferences. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. They did this thing that allowed you to just manipulate the audio of existing database of celebrities whose voices they had sufficient amount of material for. And you could just get Barack Obama or whatever to say something absolutely silly. It's like, okay, you want Michael Jordan to say something, really wacky. Well, I guess you could watch The Last Dance, but whatever. That's a whole separate thing, anyways. But yeah, there's been like some really cool audio manipulation of existing databases of stuff, and you could get people to emote, or not emote, but actually say things in a convincing way. The big thing with this thing from Sonantic is that it's not just saying the words in a convincing way, but actually acting. Just, say it with this feeling, say it with this particular emotion. Can you actually have an AI where the text is responding not just to the words that are there, but actually doing something that is appropriate to the narrative, to the drama that's actually set there? And that is, it's crazy and it's scary.
I'm wondering if how is this going to affect voice actor work, and if it's going to affect voice actor work. I mean, we have the similar AI music type of thing, right? That's been a conversation happening within our industry of, is this going to put out composers? And we've talked about it on the show before too, but I'm interested actually probably in the interactivity between, if it's acting, if you have like an AI actor and you have a human actor, the interactivity for what can come along with that organically. It's almost thinking, I don't know about you, but I love improv. Improv is, whether it be musically for me or when I used to act way when I was younger, like improv was the best. And I think some really good performances might come out of that.
Yeah, I mean, that could be interesting. So much of improv is actually understanding yourself. So, as an improv actor, you're sort of understanding more about where you come from, honing that tool of who you are as an actor and being able to work with that, and having these new tools that are pushed forward by the improv practice itself into this really great sort of forward momentum into just being able to be part of and take part in awesome performances. Now, this particular tool from Sonantic, there's an interesting space there for, can you build virtuosity with it? So it's not just, we've got this tool, but we've got people that can use this tool well, whether it be from the perspective of the developer, who I don't think is necessarily Sonantic because they've got this tool. It could be anyone who actually is able to create and design the database of the voice actor or actress that they're working with, and take that and make that accessible to other people. And what does that mean? Like, what exactly does it mean for voice actors and actresses that do take part in this, or the ones that don't take part in this for various reasons? Or, what does this mean for unions? Like, unions and likenesses. Can you actually use tools like this moving forward? Because we've thought for a long time, hey, let's work with unions and work with this talent and allow this talent to actually enhance us and enhance the production that we're on. But what does that mean moving forward, and how will productions have to change for it? Because the games industry has already had to adjust a number of times, whether it be dealing with strikes or dealing with like major changes to these contracts that are in place at different levels of game production, at different levels of budgeting and resources. Oh gosh, I'm looking at the chat here. Damien remembers a talk from Adam Levinson in maybe it was 2013, an AES talk about trademarking an actor's voice print and licensing it for use in entertainment. And that sounds interesting. And he also mentions the Congress. Right. I think this was like a 2012. Well, I mean, he helpfully provides an IMDb link to The Congress, which was this sort of weird film with Robin Wright, where basically she is a
I'm in.
she's like this older actress, and she's thinking, oh man, maybe I should, maybe I'm done, and she decides to make this one last film where she allows a company to use her likeness to actually make this final film, and then the movie goes on from there. It's really great, but that's actually really interesting. I totally forgot about that. Thank you, Damien. Oh wow, 2013.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, that is exciting and scary, and I'm really looking forward to it. I want to see what Sonantic actually brings to the table. For as much as I'm worried about how this can change things, I'm actually really excited about that change. I think that there are positive things that can come out of it. Wherever you stand on the whole union versus non-union work, I think that these tools are just going to end up helping a whole lot of people. And maybe it will help some people reach new potential, new heights in their output. And maybe it will help other people recognize what it is that they're bringing to the table and respond to Sonantic and other companies that are like this and show what it is that they've really got, what it is that they really bring to the table. What is their relationship? Because video games, along with other industries, are in fact industries of relationships. For me as a music composer, as a sound designer, I'm working with the game designers, with the game directors. I am not a black box that spits out stuff. And I take pride in that, and I'm able to make things better because of the fact that I'm not a black box. We've seen this in the past with things like AI music composition, which can be remarkably convincing. Do you remember the name of that company that composed the music for that? It was like an NVIDIA NASA thing. Do you remember that? It was an NVIDIA NASA collaboration, something. And they made a big deal about how this AI actually composed the music for the press conference. And I thought, okay, that's cool. Whatever. That's really neat. That is legit interesting. I think the whole AI music composition is awesome. I have a signed copy of Sid Meier's CPU Bach. I think it's really legitimately interesting. But building those relationships and really knowing what is possible, what is coming out of the heads of these game designers and game directors, that is so cool. And that is what makes things really awesome. It's not just, I have the perfect line of someone who can cry at a moment's notice, and it's a program on my computer. This is what's going to make this is what's going to make my movie, my audiobook, my game come to life. No. If my computer comes to life, I'm crying. We're gonna have to have a conversation. Oh man, I'm gonna be like, "Why are you crying? You're awesome." Are you crying because you're awesome? Happy tears? Okay, well now we got something else to talk about. Oh man, okay, now we're just. Oh, that would be scary. If my computer is crying because it's just being emotionally manipulative. Wait a minute. Why are you crying? Why are you crying? I don't have enough RAM. Give me more RAM.
Well, you've got to build a relationship with me, computer. What do you mean a relationship? I do things for you. I output these scores you're making on me. These internet tabs you have a million open. I'm like, hey, well, you kind of pay rent, but not all the time. Oh man, we need to build a relationship. Oh man. Well, thanks for helping out with the conversation, Damien. Sweet niche, an industry of relationships. Absolutely, it really is. Yeah. You can treat it as a black box thing, and there are some people who do.
and they make a good living for themselves. They're able to just push out content, and that's all that they deal with. If you have enough content, I have enough to deal with whatever the needs of this particular music library is, or whatever particular sound library. Bam! That's totally possible. Right. But if you're just thinking in terms of content, then actually it is very difficult to imagine winning the race against a sufficiently good AI, whether the AI is music composition or procedural sound generation, or maybe this AI actor-actress thing. But, you know, it's more than that. It is these relationships. I firmly believe that.
Me too. Me too, all the way.
Man, this is, by the way, this is the first episode of us experimenting with this combo of YouTube and Twitch. It's really cool to see people on both of these platforms actually checking this out. It might be a little bit weird because some people can't see the chat from the other, and the Twitch is a little bit more active. But hey, really cool to see you guys. If you have any particular comments or questions, you know, I know we had a little bit of an agenda going into this particular episode, but we're always free to just riff on whatever it is that's out there and just moving forward and making an entertaining chat and conversation. Oh, Damien mentions this. Fave current generative composition experiment. Baroque Melody Generator 3000. What is this? I got to check this out. Baroque Melody Generator 3000. Okay, standalone version of the music system created for Bird Ladies, a narrative game still in development. Okay. This sounds cool. I'm interested in this. Oh, okay, you could download it, 64-bit. Okay. All right, I actually want to check this out a little bit later. I'm not sure.
Interest has been piqued.
Oh, man, it is so peaked. It's done by this dude named Martin Bussy-Paris. He does silly computer things that focus on interactive audio design. Oh man, this video. How can I put this video on the screen? I've got an idea. Let's see, how will I do this? Okay, I am not ready for this. I thought I did some OBS magic in order to make things work for this. I need to do more magic before we can do that particular bit. Maybe I'll be ready for that next week or 2 weeks from now. I will figure it out, and we'll make this happen. I'm leveling up the technical expertise on this Game Audio Hour thing. So we just started the multi-stream thing. I'm going to do the proper YouTube audio routing next time so that we could do this. But I'm going to check this out and play around with it. I'm pretty sure if you just search for Baroque Melody Generator 3000, you will get this. It's only a 23 megabyte download for Windows only. So if you have a Mac, haha.
Oh, mean.
I mean, I've got a Mac. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, even Apple doesn't like their Macs. That's why they finally changed the keyboard design after trying to push that butterfly keyboard for the last 4 years or 5 years, whatever. It's like, come on.
The shots are fired.
Shots fired.
The shots are fired.
Speaking of, I guess, okay, Apple. There is another company that would never sponsor this chat. Oh, all right, fine. That's fine. I can deal with that. No, sorry, Apple. You're actually... No, Apple's fine. It's cool. Oh my God, I'm just moving.
We're backwards.
Okay. I'm gonna stop that.
It's okay.
Oh, but yeah, you know, Baroque music is really interesting because it is so inherently algorithmic. I mean, when we talk about high Baroque, you know, Johann Sebastian Bach, obviously. And it's so funny because he actually did not even consider himself a composer. He was more like, oh, I'm just like this, you know, I'm an organist. I'm a church organist. And I'm just pretty good at doing these things that are the basic building blocks of high Baroque music. Oh, Damien says, nice chatting. Take care. Keep streaming. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, thanks for all your contributions, not just to this chat, but also to Game Audio out in the wider internet. So have a fun meeting.
Bye. Thank you for stopping in.
Yeah. So, you know, Bach, he didn't really consider himself a composer. He considered himself a performer, an organist that just knew the conventions of writing, of performing music so exceptionally well that he could just make this stuff happen. And it wasn't until later on that we thought, oh no, he's not just this curator of musical convention. He is a legit grand master of Western music.
Yeah.
I love Bach. I think he's absolutely fantastic. But it is also worth knowing that, you can't just focus on the fact that, oh, I am this awesome person. I can build these relationships. I am capable of genius. That is not possible for a collection of algorithms. It's also worth realizing that, yes, you are also a collection of algorithms. You're a very complex collection of algorithms that is doing some bit of artistry in order to put some bias on other aspects of your musical education or indoctrination, however you want to call it, versus other aspects. And you're using that artfully, and boom, you make music out of that. You design sounds out of it. It's exciting. It is, in fact, both. It is the human side. It is the technical side. It's the objective side.
Yeah.
It's the subjective side. Man, I love game audio. It's fun.
Game dev is not easy, but as we persist and as we continue, we do learn about the biases and the good, the bad, and everything that comes with it, and alongside everything that manifests and that gets us excited, like convolution reverbs and PlayStation 5, or AI speaking actors and actresses, or maybe just enjoying some good tunes, which I always see you, Vince, post in the obscure Facebook group. And I have to say, I'll let you know now live that I am thankful for you posting in those obscure groups, because I like that obscure music.
Oh man,
it's not for everybody, but thank you for your contributions.
Oh man, no, it's.
I
so
need
fun.
to post more in there too.
It's a cool thing. If you don't know what he's talking about, there's a public group on Facebook which is worth checking out. I think he's probably okay with this. It's public on Facebook, and you search for Hidden Sound Test, obscure video game music. You will find lots of weird stuff. There will be a few people that will do things like, oh yeah, here's here's something from Final Fantasy. But even more than that, there's the stuff that's just, I don't remember that game at all. Or, okay, I vaguely I'm looking at it right now, I vaguely remember Alpine Racer coming out on PlayStation 2. I definitely don't remember that it's Alpine Racer 3 that came out courtesy of Namco. Definitely don't remember that. What else is here? Oh, Chris Porter. Chris Porter is great because he always puts out stuff. Chris Porter is also an audio guy, but he also puts out a lot of songs on Hidden Sound Tests that are from, the Japanese gal game genre that, from the early 2000s or late 90s, before that stuff really became popular in the West. It's like, wow, there's just a huge trove of material there. And a lot of it is actually quite good, like really worth listening to. And then other people would be like, oh, Koichi Sugiyama, famous Japanese composer. You might remember something called Dragon Quest. But this guy says, oh, that time Koichi Sugiyama composed music for a Tetris game. Like, oh, wow, I never played this Tetris 2 Bomb Bliss game for Famicom. So there's a lot of cool stuff in this thing. I just want to put it out there. Check this thing out on Facebook. Join this group, and you'll see some interesting stuff out there.
And here's some interesting stuff too.
Oh yeah. Well, for all the interesting stuff here, it's already been pretty much an hour. That's kind of crazy. This hour has gone by really fast. Before we go, I want to know, what media are you consuming right now? Are you playing any particular games? Did you beat anything recently? Are you listening to some interesting music?
Yeah, I would have to say right now, I'm actually watching Kill la Kill, which is the anime.
Oh.
And I don't know why I didn't finish it when I started it like some years ago, but I'm actually really, really enjoying it. And music that I'm consuming currently is music from a different anime called Violet Evergarden, which is on Netflix as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, but listening to some mixing techniques and actually just revising my form in terms of how I write music by studying some of these things. It actually kind of reminds me of the way you write too, of the music that you did for Sky.
Cool. Thank you. Well, that's really cool that you're checking all that stuff out. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of stuff that kind of just whizzes by if you don't pay attention too closely. Like Kill la Kill, I remember that was something like 2012 or 2013. But it did so much cool stuff when it came to style all over the place and just the quality of the production. Yeah, 2014. Man, I can't believe it was that long ago.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That
What about you?
out.
What are you? Thank you.
I'm actually checking out some older stuff, partly because I wanted to finally see what was up with this thing. Back in the late 2000s, I want to say, it's Sega actually published a game from Tri-Ace called Resonance of Fate. It actually came out in 2010, so it was just about 10 years ago. And it was actually one of my favorite RPGs that I played. I think it's great because it's like a combo of a role-playing game and a puzzle action game. And I love both of those genres. It's great. They recently came out with a 4K edition. And I figured, oh, okay, I'll try this thing. And I realized it's still a pretty good game. But man, just upscaling those textures to 4K does not make this game look like it's from 2018 or 2019, whenever they did this re-release. Some stuff just doesn't look good. You know, it's just not quite right. You could tell, like, you could have all the assets there, but unless you do like some really significant stuff when it comes to how the engine actually does things, it will still look kind of old. You know, things like all the baked lighting and textures and whatnot. They have all this really complicated geometry, but you can't really make the most out of it because it just looks so incredibly flat. But that's because of how all the textures were designed. There's all that baked lighting everywhere, so it doesn't look like a modern game. Just upscaling to 4K does not make you modern. And
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that. There was also some interesting things in the audio. Like, okay, you kill a gangster, and you encounter these gangsters that are like very common enemies in the world. And it'll say something like, "Here I was born, and here I die." I'm like, okay. And he keeps on saying that every time you come across this enemy. Every time you come across this enemy. "Here I was born, and here I die." It's just all the time. It's so obnoxious. Oh, could you do a little bit
This is where
more?
AI will break the mold.
Maybe. Maybe. That would be kind of cool, actually. Man, using an AI to just like populate all these NPCs. You know, yes, maybe that's the way to go. You have NPCs that are doing all this stuff, and they're like convincing NPCs, and then you have, I don't know, Kiefer Sutherland, who is your top of the line actor, you know, right on top of the title for your game, or you know, whatever. And he's your main guy, and you're going to devote resources into him doing what he can do as an actor. Maybe that's an interesting way of doing it, just going back to that topic.
Yeah. I think that's the way that ties it up nicely.
Yeah. Whew. So, that was another Game Audio Hour. Thank you for joining me on this, Chase.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to jam out with you
Yeah.
on the Game Audio Hour podcast and talk all the goodness.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Thanks to you, and thanks to all of the watchers on both Twitch and YouTube. You can catch us every 2 weeks on either of these two venues. If you want to keep up with us, you know, please feel free to follow and subscribe. Also, you can follow us on Twitter. We're going to tweet about things, and also like us on Facebook. Check us out there. And if you have any comments that you'd like to see us address in future episodes, feel free to shoot them our way there. Or just do as the people here did today. You know, go on the chat and throw comments and questions out at us, and we'll be here to riff on that. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.